A voice that once shook the world of heavy metal has now gone silent forever. Ozzy Osbourne, the Prince of Darkness, the legend, the rebel, has passed at 76. But as tributes pour in from around the globe, one question refuses to fade: what really happened in those final moments? Behind the headlines lies a mystery, and a growing storm of doubt from fans who aren't buying the official story. From electrifying stages to a heartbreaking physical decline, Ozzy lived louder than life, but his end feels too quiet, too sudden, and far too unanswered. In today's deep dive, we're uncovering the side of his story the media won't touch, the emotional unraveling, the hidden health battles, and the whispers that have his closest followers asking, was this really just the end? Or is something being covered up? Stay with us, because the most emotional revelations are yet to unfold. Ozzy Osbourne wasn't just a rock star, he was a force of nature, a living legend who redefined music, culture, and rebellion for an entire generation. From the dark, thunderous rise of Black Sabbath to his raw, unapologetic solo journey, Ozzy was more than an icon, he was the heartbeat of heavy metal. Now, at 76, the world is mourning a man who gave us unforgettable anthems, outrageous headlines, and a legacy carved in chaos and authenticity. His family grieves privately, but millions of stunned fans across the globe are left searching for answers. In this video, we go beyond the headlines and into the heart of the story. We'll walk through Ozzy's final days, revealing the private battles he fought, physically, emotionally, and spiritually. From his years of health decline to the controversies that never quite left him, this is the story of a man who carried pain behind the fame. We'll share rare accounts from loved ones, examine haunting fan theories, and uncover eerie moments that some believe were signs of what was coming. Was the Prince of Darkness finally at peace, or was there more behind the curtain than the world ever knew? This is where it gets raw. This is where it gets real. The last days of Ozzy Osbourne's life were incredibly tragic. Those closest to the wild rocker knew a different story, even though the public continued to see glimpses of the man who once broke every rule in the rock and roll handbook by biting the head off a bat on stage. One of silent anguish, gradual deterioration, and silent readiness for the inevitable. Years ago, a string of public health emergencies prompted Ozzy to postpone several significant tours, including his eagerly anticipated No More Tours 2. But there was more to those pronouncements than that. Despite receiving a Parkinson's disease diagnosis in 2003, Ozzy didn't disclose the condition to the public until 2020, almost 20 years later. Fans could see the toll it was having on his body and soul, and he described it as a nightmare. Ozzy was in and out of hospitals in the months before his death, battling a debilitating spinal disease that resulted from a fall in 2019. From nerve damage to excruciating chronic pain, the incident set off a series of problems that made it nearly impossible for him to walk. His wife and fierce protector, Sharon Osbourne, called these last several months the most difficult period of their marriage. She claimed that at times, Ozzy's heavy medication made it difficult for her to identify the man she had been in love with since 1982. She nevertheless remained at his side, sleeping in hospital rooms, fighting for his treatment, and protecting him from the unrelenting scrutiny of the press. Most people are unaware that during those final weeks, Ozzy insisted on spending all of her time with her family. It has been stated that producers, friends, and even some former band members were turned away. It was a really personal farewell. It was reported that his kids, Jack, Kelly, and Amy, stayed at his bedside for extended periods of time, playing music, reminiscing, and holding his hand during the most trying times. According to one insider, during his last days, Ozzy even asked that Black Sabbath's timeless ballad Changes, a melancholic and poignant song about letting go, suffering, and human growth, be played quietly and often. This is where it becomes even more sentimental though. Ozzy reportedly told Sharon, "I'm not afraid anymore," just a few days before he went away. It was a simple line, but it conveyed everything to a guy who battled the demons of celebrity, addiction, and disease. Some fans aren't sure we've heard everything though. But what took place during the last 24 hours? Why are people still asking questions about what actually happened behind closed doors on the internet? The news broke early in the morning. The Prince of Darkness, Ozzy Osbourne, was 76 years old when he died. The family's formal statement was succinct, straightforward, and emotional. As he passed away quietly, surrounded by loved ones, he fought valiantly to the very end. As we mourn the passing of our cherished husband, father, and legend, we kindly request privacy. Headlines spread like wildfire in a matter of minutes. The story was covered by all of the major media, including The Guardian, BBC TMZ, and Rolling Stone. Social media took off. On Instagram, TikTok, and Twitter, the hashtag #RipOz immediately soared to the top of trending rankings. Millions of followers posted recollections, tributes, and emotional responses in less than an hour. But the atmosphere was somewhat unnerving in the midst of the public mourning. Fans weren't merely in sadness, they were also recording a final song or were astonished by the stage. Just 2 months earlier, he had declared in a previous interview, "If I can sit, if I can sing, I'll give it one last go." Fans thought that, while though Ozzy was deteriorating, he wasn't this close to his away. And that's when things began to seem strange. Fans noted that Sharon Osbourne had been remarkably silent on social media for weeks at a time. Others observed that days prior to the revelation, Ozzy's kids, especially Jack and Kelly, had completely stopped posting on the internet and canceled events. Behind the scenes, what were they getting ready for? Then the odd obituary detail appeared. Instead of dying in a hospital, Ozzy died away quietly at home. However, according to insiders, he had just come home from a lengthy stay at a private medical facility and had been under constant medical supervision for months. So why the abrupt change? Why bring him home so quickly? Some others think Ozzy realized his time was running out and decided he wanted to pass away in the home he built with Sharon, surrounded by the people he loved, listening to music, and not under fluorescent lights. Others' conjecture was more intricate, requiring medical decisions that the general public would never completely comprehend. But whatever the situation, one thing was evident right away. More than a rock star was gone from the world. One of its symbols was gone. Fans set up spontaneous candlelight vigils in locations all around the world. From Los Angeles to London, flowers and handwritten comments were piling up outside his childhood home in Aston, Birmingham, by the hour. Metal greats like James Hetfield and Corey Taylor, as well as erstwhile competitors like Gene Simmons, paid heartfelt homage to the band, with one fan writing, "You taught us to scream, to rebel, and to live free. Now you rest, but your voice will never die." Perhaps the most poignant statement, however, was made by his longtime bandmate Tony Iommi. "We started this journey together as kids, and now I'm left without my brother. I'll carry your voice with me for the rest of my days." Despite the outpouring of tributes, fans continued to ask questions as rumors circulated regarding Ozzy's last wishes, secret letters, and even unreleased music. Behind closed doors, the world was grieving for Ozzy Osbourne, but a completely other storm was building that not even his most ardent supporters could have predicted. Ozzy's final will and testament came into quiet focus shortly after his death was announced. Then things started to go apart. Ozzy changed his will a little more than a year ago, according to family insiders. Even his inner circle was taken aback by the decision. Why would a man suddenly alter his estate so drastically while he was so ill? This is when things become more tricky. According to reports, Ozzy's fortune, which is thought to be worth over $220 million, may not be distributed as everyone had anticipated. The alleged lower shares for some family members are causing rumors of tension, especially with regard to Ozzy's eldest daughter, Amy Osbourne, who famously refused to appear on the reality show, The Osbournes, and chose to live outside the family spotlight. However, Sharon, his wife of over 40 years, is still expected to receive a sizable portion. According to sources, Amy may have been completely left out of some aspects of the inheritance, possibly because of a long-standing rift between her and Ozzy in their later years. Rather than out of animosity, some claim that this exclusion was pragmatic rather than personal. According to one insider, Ozzy was constantly attempting to preserve Amy's privacy. Furthermore, he didn't want to include her in the tumultuous estate disputes. However, it didn't end there. A collection of handwritten letters that an Ozzy left behind are currently the subject of much discussion. According to reports, he wrote personal farewell cards for Sharon and each of his children. These weren't official records. According to reports, they were heartfelt comments that only his family would ever see and were full with memories, regrets, and messages. Or are they going to? Someone close to the family is thinking of making Ozzy's last remarks public, perhaps in a future documentary or memoir, according to one leaked comment. However, some argue that would directly contradict Ozzy's last desire for seclusion. The twist is here. Unreleased songs that Australians recorded over the last 2 years while battling disease and kept safe in a secure vault are also discussed. In an interview, Sharon once alluded to the fact that Ozzy had taped content for a future in which he would not be present. Will this music become a struggle for rights? Or is it part of his legacy? It has come to light that several distant relatives, including former colleagues and estranged cousins, are already preparing legal challenges against the estate on the grounds that they were promised payment for their previous work with Ozzy. It's unclear if those allegations will stand up in court, but it's obvious that while Ozzy's passing may have relieved his suffering, it also unleashed a torrent of unresolved family strife. However, Sharon has mostly kept quiet and just issued a brief comment in the midst of all the rumors. "My life's love was an Aussie. Right now, my main concern is treating him with the respect, peace, and honesty that he deserves." Will that peace endure, though, is the true question. Ozzy Osbourne was more than simply Black Sabbath's lead singer. He was a walking paradox, a force of nature, a cultural revolution, and someone who touched people's hearts one minute and shocked the world the next. Ozzy's journey from being born into a working-class household in Aston, Birmingham, to becoming the godfather of heavy metal was anything from typical. It was unrefined, erratic, and frequently incredibly sinister. But he stayed true to himself throughout it all, which is what made him renowned. Let's face it, Ozzy wasn't perfect. He publicly fought mental health issues, battled addiction, and made headlines for his strange and occasionally unsettling actions. He bit the head off a live bat on stage in 1982, which is the notorious bat incident. It was more than a publicity gimmick. It did happen. Fans accepted that because that's who Ozzy was, even while critics criticized him for it. He is wild, unrepentant, and uncopyable, but his profound emotional understanding is frequently disregarded. A man with a very lyrical spirit lay behind the mayhem. His songs, which were frequently written off as sinister or demonic, were actually tales of suffering, conflict, love, alienation, and the pursuit of truth in a shattered world. Generations of outsiders were impacted by songs like Mama, I'm Coming Home, Diary of a Madman, and War Pigs, people who felt misunderstood, unwelcome, and unheard. Ozzy's comeback story was even more astounding. In 1979, he was dismissed from Black Sabbath, and many people thought his career was gone. However, rather than going into obscurity, Ozzy made a comeback with Blizzard of Oz, an album that not only brought his career back to life, but also revolutionized the metal genre. He demonstrated that the inner darkness might be transformed into strength and beauty with songs like Crazy Train and Mr. Crowley. In the US, that album alone sold more than 5 million copies. The mythology only became bigger from there. Ozzy remains current despite decades of changing musical trends. He made the wave rather than merely riding it. Even with the popular reality show, The Osbournes in the 2000s, Ozzy underwent still another change. Millions fell in love with him again, this time as a charming, clumsy, profane father. Not to be overlooked are his partnerships, as he crossed generations and genres. From Tony Iommi to Elton John, Zakk Wylde to Post Malone, you respected Ozzy if you were a music lover, regardless of age. The music, however, might not be his greatest contribution. It's the human element he added to the rock star narrative. He was honest about his shortcomings. He took responsibility for his errors. He struggled to maintain his sobriety. He relapsed. He made another attempt. He spoke candidly about despair, Parkinson's illness, and the fear of losing control. He demonstrated to us how even legends have pain and how millions of others were empowered to confront their own issues by honesty. Fans all over the world are lighting candles, hosting memorial concerts, and posting words like "You saved my life" for a cause. Ozzy was genuine even though he wasn't flawless. Furthermore, genuineness is uncommon in a world full of filtered illusions. His presence is everywhere, even in death. All-day Australian marathons are now the norm for radio stations. Since the announcement, music streaming services have recorded record-breaking plays of his repertoire, and murals are appearing everywhere from London to Los Angeles. However, this story has one more piece, because even though the legacy is celebrated worldwide, one aspect of Ozzy's life is frequently overlooked: his intense fear of dying, and the unanswered spiritual concerns that plagued him throughout his life. Ozzy Osbourne was a man who was profoundly plagued by death. Despite his exaggerated persona, leather coats, wailing vocals, devil horns, and mayhem, not in the manner you might anticipate. Throughout his life, Ozzy frequently discussed death as a constant presence that he couldn't avoid, regardless of his level of wealth or notoriety. He often described having panic attacks, nocturnal terrors, and a crippling worry that he wouldn't wake up the next morning. Even during his most famous period, "I'm in a rare 20 because I fear that I'll go to hell, even if I've survived worse, but because I'm unsure of what lies ahead." That unknowable is like a persistent ghost. His identity was greatly influenced by his fear. That was the cause of his careless childhood, the never-ending need to live quickly, to dull suffering, and to break free from stillness. But that dread changed as he became older and more mature. It persisted, it got deeper. In his final years, Ozzy became spiritual, but not in the conventional sense. Though he believed in something greater, he frequently quipped that he didn't trust organized religion. He studied the Bible, he meditated, and Sharon says that, particularly after being diagnosed with Parkinson's disease, he would frequently sit by himself and silently gaze into space for hours at a time. According to some, Ozzy thought he was being punished for his actions. In addition to his crazy activities and substance misuse, he also had personal regrets, wounded people, lost friends, and missed time with his kids during the worst of his addiction. "There were times I was afraid I'd lose him before I ever got to truly know him," his daughter Kelly Osbourne once stated in an interview, sharing one of the most heartbreaking tales. "I'm not ready to say goodbye now that I have." According to reports, Ozzy visited with a number of spiritual advisors over his last year, including energy healers, mediums, and private chaplains, rather than pastors or priests. He wasn't seeking forgiveness. According to those close to him, he sought tranquility. He desired to reconcile his pain, his legacy, and most importantly, himself. And oddly, something changed during those last few months. A close acquaintance was informed by Jack Osbourne that his father became uncannily serene. He had lost his fear. He ceased discussing the things he would miss. He began to concentrate on his truth, his family, his music, and what he had given the world. And that truth was true, despite being messy, dark, and human. And that struck a deeper chord with fans than anything else. When asked how he wanted to be remembered in one of his final interviews, Ozzy Osbourne simply replied, "As someone who didn't fake it, someone who gave you everything he had, even when he had nothing left." Perhaps that is what Ozzy Osbourne's true legacy is. He didn't pass away holding jewels. He passed away in the company of love, exhausted, worn out, broken, and at last at rest. In the end, he was a man looking for light, even though he was the prince of darkness. And maybe he did find it at last. So here we are. We no longer have Ozzy Osbourne, the man who inspired generations, frightened parents, defied the rules, and created an empire out of chaos. Even so, his presence seems more powerful than before. From the dreary streets of Birmingham to the roaring platforms of international arenas, we have witnessed his ascent. We've witnessed the unadulterated agony of his health struggles, the chaos of addiction, the family strife, and the unrelenting spiritual inquiries. He provided us with decades of heartbreaking honesty, mind-bending controversy, and music that will never be forgotten. The world adored him because he never professed to be flawless. Even though Ozzy's passing closed a chapter in music history, his narrative is far from over. His voice will keep reverberating through records, headphones, stadiums, and streaming services. In addition to serving as a warning, his story will be remembered as an example of perseverance and staying true to oneself at all costs. And Ozzy served as a reminder to rebel in a society where so many people strive for conformity. He was a warrior by nature. As a legend, he passed away. He will also be remembered as a survivor, a father, a husband, and the unrepentant prince of a genre he helped establish. We would like to hear from you now, though. The community and the fans are what have sustained Ozzy over the years. Which memory of Ozzy Osbourne holds the most significance for you? Was your life influenced by his music? Now that he's gone, what song sounds different? Leave a comment below with your tale. For the guy who given us so much in chaos, in genius, and in truth, let's create a digital temple. If this tribute resonated with you, please hit the like, subscribe, and notify bell buttons so you don't miss a second of this channel. Because legends like Ozzy deserve nothing less, we present you with the true stories raw, unvarnished, and respectful. Anyone who has ever turned up Crazy Train and felt unstoppable should see this video. Give it to someone who is still having trouble because they need to know that even the most irrational people can achieve serenity. Because Australian Osbourne ultimately demonstrated that we shouldn't be afraid of the dark. It's a challenge to overcome. Additionally, there can be a hint of Australianness in all of